Hello, my name is Colin and I live in Chester. This video is for Chris Mattison, my MP in Chester, and Minister of Government Kemi. This came about because I produced a website and I forwarded it to Chris, and Chris forwarded it to Kemi, and Kemi replied about a few weeks ago to say that she enjoyed it. I am going to ask that we can take things forward, and maybe I can come to meet you or we can do a video call. But it will be helpful to give you some biography about my life. So I'll do that here. I have notes. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, I was an atheist. And I was quite a clever kid. And I'd ask teachers and ask classmates, do you believe in God? And they would say yes. And then I would say, well, who created God? God created you, but who created God? And nobody could answer the question. And so I stayed an atheist. I didn't really enjoy being an atheist, but I stayed an atheist, very logical, rational way of life. And then I read a book on Origins of the Universe by Albert Hinkelbein. And he explained that the universe consists of three dimensions: mass, volume, and time. And you cannot ask a fourth dimensional being when you were created, before you were created, and when you were created. Those three dimensions belong to our world, but God the Creator is a fourth dimensional being. And that was the answer to my question. So when I was 16, I did my O-levels, and much to my surprise, without really trying, I was the top student in school, especially in science. And I decided that I saw these kids in Ethiopia who were starving. There was a famine in Ethiopia, going back a long time, about 1976. And I was really moved by seeing these kids. And so I decided that I would use my life to build an ideal world. And then I sat and thought about it. I thought, well, why isn't the world ideal? And I thought, well, nobody's perfect. So the world isn't perfect because individuals aren't perfect. That means I'm not perfect. So why am I not perfect? And I thought, well, maybe we're born with an impurity, because if you have an impurity in a chemical solution, it will not form a crystal and reproduce itself. So I thought maybe I'm born with an impurity. And that's how I started off on my journey. So I stopped studying at that stage in school. I just stopped. I just went through the motions and did what I had to do, the bare minimum, to pass the exams. And I began to think about my problem. I never told anybody what I was doing. It was my secret between me and God. But I wanted to understand why the world was not perfect. And so I scraped through my exams and I went to Liverpool Polytechnic. And I thought, maybe somebody out there knows more than me. And I thought, if I was that person, what would I do? I thought I'd stand on the busiest shopping street's corner and stop people and talk to them. And then I met Yukiko. About a year after that, I met Yukiko, who was a Japanese lady who was witnessing on behalf of Sun Myung Moon. So who is Sun Myung Moon? Well, is this guy. And he wrote a book called Divine Principle, which is this book. It's all coloured in this one. And she took me back to an office, and I read the first sentence of the book, and it said, everyone without exception is striving to achieve happiness. I thought, is that true? I never thought of that. If everyone in the world is striving to achieve happiness, then surely the world should be happy. I thought, is it true? And I thought, well, is everybody trying to be happy? I thought, is a teacher? I said, yes. Is a student? I thought, yes. Am I? Yes, I'm trying to be happy. But is a criminal trying to be happy? Is an alcoholic trying to be happy? And I thought, yes. And I was amazed. And that's how I began with the Unification Church. So when I went home to my parents at the holidays, I took the book with me. And I left it by the side of my bed. And my mother saw it, and she showed it to my father, and they went berserk because they were atheists. And they kicked me out the house. They hadn't agreed to join this organisation, just reading about it. And that's how the persecution began with my parents. So then I started to become very spiritual. And also I do have a problem with a vulnerability to excess sexual desire. And this is how evil can actually attack people who are very religious. And I became so ill that my parents had me admitted to a mental hospital under a section. And then I was put on incredibly powerful injections. This is going back quite a long time, maybe 1982, where only early medications were available. And they absolutely floored me. I couldn't think, I couldn't talk, all I wanted to do was sleep, and I was so uncomfortable physically. It was just sheer torture. And then when I was discharged from hospital, because I came down and became sane again, they kept me on the medication. So I tried to return to work, I came off the medication and became ill again, and then wandered around the countryside, around Wales and Chester, and eventually was sectioned back into hospital and then discharged into the community again. And this went on for about 20 years. And it really was, for me, a purification period to make me stronger to overcome my weakness in sexual desire. So then in about 2003, I was put on olanzapine, which is a modern tablet. And this has better mental health outcomes and far fewer side effects. And then God spoke to me. God gave me an original theory which explained my illness, explains different faiths, and even explains positive thinking atheists. And I'm not going to explain that here because the video will be too long. So I'm going to end it here.